I wasn't sure if I was gonna go live or not, but basically I just thought of what I wanted to talk about from time to time. If I don't got anything to talk about it, I don't go live usually. Even though it is sometimes it's like moments where it's kind of like it's no either live content or it's nothing that I really want to watch. So I'll just basically count sheep, man, and then just go to sleep. But I was actually watching, I was listening to one of my older videos, and it just kind of made me think. It was a video 2 months ago. It was a video on a live stream I did on perfection, but it kind of had me think about like another live stream. I don't know if it was that exact live stream, but I was talking about where I do talk about regular about I talk a lot about how black people in the black community don't control their economic landscape. They don't control their businesses. They don't control they just even just in unilaterally across the country, they don't basically compete economically. Black people tend to work for others. They tend to have even be programmed by parents, by other family members, friends, to be a worker, to be a worker bee, to basically be live a life of constant, working for others. If you don't have a job, looking for someone else to hire you. This is the mindset of black people in America. Okay. I want to work for someone else. I want to go to college and hopefully I can get a job working for someone else. And I want to do that for the rest of my life, most likely. And it's not necessarily that's not all of what I'm talking about or going to be talking about tonight, but that problem it creates a lot of other problems, such as homelessness, poverty, lack of employment, crime. It's like when I was in college for I was in a university for going to school for I was going to school for programming. We had to before we even got to coding, we had to break down things on a logic level, sort of like a logic tree. We had to do something called Venn diagrams. And with Venn diagrams is basically, it's kind of like look at it like basically concept bubbles. So basically uh you'll create a bubble for each issue or each problem or whatever solution that you're trying to come up with. You create this these flow charts, and basically, okay, if you got a program, let's say the goal is for the program to generate PDF files. All right, so that's what the top goal is. Okay, and then during the course of like breaking all of that down, you got to break down how you gonna actually formulate this application that you're gonna eventually write. What is the logic behind it? How does it work? All of the inner workings of it, right? So that's what we had to do. And in that course of that, you think, okay, flow charts, you all of these things lead to other things that leads to other things that are related. And everything matters. Everything has a opposite reaction, uh you know reaction and an opposite reaction to different different components and chemistries and everything like that. Everything has some type of opposite reaction or reaction. or it doesn't have a reaction. I'm not gonna say everything, but some things have a opposite reaction or some type of reaction towards um, different elements or components. So the thing is with the whole not having control over the community's economic landscape, that leads to all of these other problems, and there's a lot of problems that it leads to. And um at the core of it, I would say, is basically what a lot of people do. What I notice, and this is just black people around the world. Black people are probably the most disrespected people on planet Earth. Just get disrespected. I mean, it comes from thousands and thousands of years of lost battles, lost wars. And from that point, from thousands of years ago to now, is a level of disrespect. People, groups of people, they look at black people as easy targets for disrespect. So in essence, disrespect is a big problem with black people. Okay, you learn that as a child. Basically all you got to do is just, you don't even have to read history. You could just basically see the different interactions with what your parents complain about, or how you see your parents react to their environment. If you pretty much, you've seen, if you're black, you've seen your parents, if your parents are black, deal with some type of disrespect, whether it be disrespected from their own group or ethnic group, and the ethnic group of others that are non-black. You've seen your parents be disrespected. You've seen your grandparents. You've seen disrespect, right? And from that disrespect, you either learn to accept disrespect or you counter disrespect. You either are in two of those camps, or you might, have, a crash out where you just crash out and you get tired of the disrespect. But you either accept the disrespect or you counter the disrespect. Okay. You either two of those, one or two of those people, and a lot of the people like my grandparents and great grandparents, they had to tolerate a lot of disrespect. They just had to, because they didn't have the power at that time to really counter the disrespect. It depended on where you are. If you were down south, you didn't really hardly have any power whatsoever. So a lot of black people had to tolerate a lot of disrespect. If up north, it varied. But black people could, in the north, northeast, whatever, they could counter the disrespect a lot better than, let's just say, someone from down south. But fast forward now, there's still quite a bit of disrespect. Now, what leads to this disrespect? Okay. And what I mean by what leads to this disrespect is, I believe it's definitely the way how black people look at one another. And what I mean by how black people look at one another, black people really are not on a particular code of ethics. They don't have a universal code of ethics. The the only person I could really think about that talked about codes of ethics was Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller, I think his book was uh book of compensatory code or something like that. he had quite a few books, right? He inspired uh the ISIS papers with uh what's old girl name? ISIS papers. I forgot her name. I tend to forget her name from time to time, but it's on the cusp of my tongue. But let me see here. I'll get it. Dr. Francis Cress Wells. So yeah, Neely Fuller, he wrote quite a few books, and I did not read any of his books, nor did I read the ISIS papers. I believe I have the ISIS papers. I don't know. I have to look at my book catalog, but in his books, he talked about a lot of what he wrote about on his various interviews, and it's a lot of content with him talking about different things. And one of the things that Neely Fuller talked about was black people having some type of code of conduct, a code of how they deal with other people. What's going on, Red Pill Sleeper Cell? What's going on with you? He talked about that. Okay. He talked about um being codified to dealing with black people as well as non-black people. That's what he talked about. And he was kind of controversial, but not really. Wasn't really that controversial, because believe it or not, um white people tend to, and other non-blacks tend to operate unilaterally. They tend to do things unilaterally. They're more unified. Actually, to believe it or not, and this kind of goes to this is what Elijah Muhammad said. He said that unity was more powerful than an atom bomb. And a lot of people, a lot of people don't, they don't really they don't understand, maybe they don't understand white people because they don't really, I don't know, they don't really think about it or never really thought about it maybe. But I've definitely studied white people. I lived with white people. I was in a group home when I was a little boy for about a little less than 2 years, and I lived with white people. And I know a little bit about the strengths and weaknesses of white people. Okay. And one of the things that I know that most people don't think about, they think about maybe out of fear what, just say, white folks or Europeans have invented or built as far as weapons and things of that nature, such as like different bioweapons and you know different weapons of sorts. Those are the things that they base their fear or concern of white people off of, and especially their historical records of violence and such. But one of the things that a lot of people miss is that basically white people's power is their unity. Their unity is the spear to the arrow of their power. Without that unity, they wouldn't be able to do anything that they have already have done. And actually, to be honest, that unity is kind of somewhat being called into question now, because basically through capitalist measures, you got a lot of elites that have concentrated so much wealth that the poor whites, even the middle class whites, quote unquote middle class, are very, very much at a crossroads, or at a point of almost to the point where they're gonna probably have some type of well, you already kind of seeing it with riots and stuff like that, where they're gonna, I think eventually, if this continues on, um if they can't handle things politically, it will go towards some type of revolt, and even violent revolt, because the rich elites have concentrated so much wealth that it's even undermining white people. Okay, white people are uh in a position to where now they have to deal with things that traditionally only non-whites had to deal with, like lack of jobs, lack of money, lack of resources, poverty, things of that nature, like where it's almost like you're a second class citizen, right? Well, because of how things are in society with the economy, with capitalism, a lot of white people are not doing well with that. So that unity is kind of crumbling, but it still remains, it's kind of tattered, but it still remains. But yeah, that's one of the main power sources that I noticed. And once I noticed it, I was like, oh, okay. White people have very good unity, and very good organization. They're able to organize, and be unified, including in that unification includes all across the globe. That's why I never, only if you notice, only weak, very weak, and even somewhat poor blacks rode the Tariq Nasheed train. And what I mean by, you already know what I mean by rode the Tariq Nasheed train, but I want to clarify. Basically, joining the Tariq Nasheed train of trying to have some type of political, social statements towards basically unifying themselves with black people in America and everybody else, the hell with them. But I never fell for it because I'm smart, I'm intelligent. I understood long before Tariq, when Tariq Nasheed was eating biscuits and cookies and in California, trying to survive in his apartment, and talking to his neighbor, or the person that lived in his apartment that was an actual Mac, and trying to learn how to cosplay him so he can make some money in the future, off of cosplaying and mimicking the Mac that lived in his apartment building. I already knew this. I've known this for years. I've known that unit the power of white people's unity long before that. So when I see someone popping up or trying to build up movements, it does cause me to ring the bells of alarm to say this person is possibly an agent, because basically anything that counters any black unification, you would have to suspect it being of some type of source, to proxy some type of propaganda to further undermine black people, to further undermine them, to keep them from basically competing. Because basically that's how white people complete, or I mean, I say complete, but compete. They compete through unification. They trade with European countries. They have a German stock market. They have a London stock market. They have a stock market in France. They have stock markets throughout Europe. They have, all of these different markets that they trade with. They have some type of code, business code of conduct, and trade deals, uh, all kinds of different unilateral um, organizational alliances. That's how they do what they do. It's not if you look at the weapons and the different things, all of these different like tools and such, you'll overcomplicate it. It's not just the weapons and all of the unity and the shared knowledge and all of that. It helps build different technologies and uh you know d- build space stations and rocket ships and all of these different things. Basically sharing knowledge, sharing inventions, sharing materials, trade deals, organizations, unification. That's how they win. Now, um, black people obviously are not competing on that level. And the reason we don't is because we don't copy the same game. We're doing things backwardly in many regards on a level uh that is basically non-productive. It's just not productive. Trying to just basically just deal with other, even black people really don't support other black people even in America. Even if you just said, okay, I'm just gonna just deal with only black people from America. Black people don't even support each other in America or other black Americans. This is all a fad. It's like I remember I'm older, very much older. I remember the 90s, there were cross-color jeans, Carl Kanais, Fubu just came out, I think. And these were all fad fashions. Nobody, if you wear cross colors right now, you walk outside, people will think you're a crackhead. You go wear some Carl Kanai jeans and cross colors, people will just think you're a crackhead because that's not in fashion. So black people, just like anybody else, they jump on fads. They're easily propagandized. So basically, what Tariq Nasheed knows this because that's how he's able to make his money. He started with the book, the Mac lessons. Then he went to Hidden Colors. Then he's pro black. Then now he's trying to be a social media influencer based off of hijacking Vet Carnell and Tone Talks ADOS movement and taking it to changing the name to FBA. Basically, just like he did to the Mac in the apartment building, hijacking, cosplaying him in terraforming into to that person and pretending to be a Mac, and then he just basically hijacked someone else's idea. It's a fad. It's gonna, probably, I don't know, in the annals of history, I'm not gonna say the people that do follow Tariq Nasheed and all of that, I think they still will kind of look at him in high regard, even after, everybody's old and he's dead and gone and everything like that. I don't think that people will just throw him out in the garbage or whatever. But nonetheless, like it's a fad. It's some type of bandwagon that people are hopping on. And most of the people that I noticed that are really vocal about it, they're very they're not really they're not scholars. These people are these people are not really that. I want to really honestly say they're not really that intelligent, to be honest. They're very vocally, they really can't communicate. They have a very outside of ad hominems, they have no communication skills, hardly whatsoever. And they're really, to be honestly speaking, I mean, I'm a brokeologist. I know broke people very well. They're very broke as well. A lot of people are broke. I mean, obviously, but yeah, if you ask them like how are you doing, they probably lie to you. Tell you otherwise. But if you really looked at them at their financial lens, they're busted. And that is where these identity politics stuff come in. The racist whites are still doing the same thing. They're clinging to racism because they're busted, okay? Or they're not hitting on much in life. So identity politics or racial politics is something that the poor cling on to. That's one thing that the poor cling on to have some type of confidence and to build some type of self-esteem about yourself. Because you don't really have, you're not hitting on it on things in real life, in your financial life. Because everybody has to deal with capitalism. And in capitalism, if you don't have capital, you're really not able to really fulfill your life that well, because everything is based off of capital. So when you don't have that much capital, you need something else to make you feel proud of yourself. And I've seen that. I've seen that from both sides. And I don't fall for it, because obviously this is something that's not new. This is very old. Okay. Um what the ex-president, I think, what's his name, after, I think he came after Nixon. I want to say, I think it was Johnson. He was quoted in audio tapes basically talking about how he undermines his poor white racist constituents by taking money out of their pocket, because in undermining their own causes and things that they should really be concerned about, by basically just telling them that they're better than black people, even though they're dirt poor and white in America. It's an old trick. That was before I was born. That was the 1960s. They were doing that. They were, basically using poor whites to help win causes in elections. Meanwhile, they're still poor. At the end of the day, once they vote and they go back home, they're going back home to the poorhouse, and they're poor, dealing with their poor reality with some type of pride, some type of racial pride. And that's basically what they're doing. That's the same playbook with the whole FBA shit. Same thing. You know, People that don't have money, what they do is they use religion, and they use different organizations, or even propped up. They can prop up an organization overnight, and then people will fall into it because people need something that they can cling on to, that they want to be proud of. That's just how people operate. That's why people join gangs, organizations, and all of that. They want something. They want to feel like they're a part of something, especially if they're poor. Especially if they're poor. So, um, I just say all of this to say basically that, um, these are, the circumstances of what's going on now. But at the core of all of this is disrespect. Okay. Now I will say yes, black people do disrespect other black people. Africans disrespect African Americans. Even though African Americans they say they don't want to be called African Americans. Um, Caribbeans disrespect both Africans and African Americans. I mean, that's that's not gonna that's what people do. I mean, even Europeans beef with Americans, but they still come to the table. And the problem that black people have is they don't come to the table. Okay, I'm not saying all, not of course not all, because there is black people in business that are kicking ass. Okay, and I don't ever want to undermine them or diminish what they're doing. You got TV One, you got you got different groups that are doing a lot, doing quite a bit of business and doing well. It's still it's a small portion, but they are I don't ever want to undermine the black people out there that do have companies, corporations, that are basically competing. But for the most part, most black people are not competing, and are not in control of their economic landscape. I mean, you could be a billionaire African American. Okay, you go live in upper class black community. That upper class black community is, you know, let's just talk about Chicago. It's gonna have the same elements or similar elements, as I said, before, as poor black neighborhoods, because even in the upper class or upper middle class black communities, they don't control their economic landscape. They have the black community is overran with foreigners, and they're not African. They're from India or Pakistan or somewhere in Arabia or North Africa, and black people don't say anything. They just go in there every day and buy their goods, and pay their money and walk out the store, and they don't say anything, because what happens is you have a bunch of people that are unorganized, ununified, and they're all over the place. I gotta actually change the thumbnail to this video, because um yeah, I already have a thumbnail for this video. Uh, let's see here. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, when you're doing things like that, when you're ununified, you're unorganized, and you make it easy for others to constantly undermine you. Okay, constantly disrespect you. It just opens the door for it, because you got to just understand. Let me take out the word disrespect. Let me put in equity. Okay, you understand the word equity, right? It means basically balance. Okay, some type of balance, right? Or even order. Well, when you look at a lot of the black community, it's a lot of disorder. It's a lot of um people doing whatever they want to do, right? That's not competitive. Again, like it's just not, it's not competitive. And that leads to all of these other underlying problems. Because you got one group of people all over the place, and then you got people, that have groups, that have international groups, like the Trilateral Committee, the Bilderberg Group, you know, um, all of these different groups that basically essentially run the world. That's basically what they do, and they're involved with, right? And black folks can't open up a corner store and compete with foreigners in their neighborhood. The reason being is, as someone that has done so, had a business in, a black quote unquote neighborhood, black people, even if you are quote unquote FBA or ADOS, they still won't support you. They still, you can run an experiment. If you got all this is, what will this experiment cost you? You don't have to be rich to have this experiment. You're gonna need about 15 to 20,000 dollars. Go open up a go open up a store. Just go. All it's rare. It's very easy to open up a store. It's black people, because they're not taught business, they're not taught economics, they're not taught finance. They believe everything that revolves money is hard and difficult. And the thing is, to open up a store it's just advanced. It's called commercial real estate because it's just different. It's same as residential real estate. It's just advanced. So, okay, if I go, like, yeah, I might, chances are I have to get an apartment in the next coming months or wherever. I go, what? I got to go fill out a lease, got to put the down payment, I got to qualify for the apartment, right? And I get the fucking apartment, I get the keys and all of this shit, right? Same fucking way you open up a store. But you have to do other things, like, because you're operating a store or business, you have to get the certain license of whatever you open with a store in Chicago. To open up a convenience store, you just probably need a general license. You might need some type of like food license, I'm not sure, but that shit don't cost that much. It's like maybe maybe 1,000 or more. Okay, a store, to build out, you can basically get a corner store for about 10, 15 grand. 10, 15 grand, you could be up and running, got freezers, got a, small stock supply of, whatever you're trying to sell. That's all it costs. But and it's, see, I can excuse the poor people, right? In the black community that's like lower class. I can excuse them because they don't have the fucking money. But the same behaviors or actions are in upper class black communities, and black people that are, middle class. But see, here's the thing: there are some portions of in the book Dark Ghettos, they talked about this. But there are some black people that once they achieve a certain financial class, they do go live with white folks. Now, the reason that they go do that is primarily because they want to kind of get away from the struggle. That's one thing. And it's other things as well, right? Because the struggle involves a lot of different things. Your day-to-day life is struggle, right? Well, getting away from the struggle, you get out of that, right? Bad school districts, bad, everything bad, crime, poverty, unemployment, all of that. You just get away from that, right? And you go live with white folks, right? Problem solved, right? Well, it's some black people they don't do that. They just go stick it out. They go live around each other and everything, and they deal with the problems. So there is black people that have money that they can, basically, um, because you do have well-to-do neighborhoods or enclaves, where black people live that have money. They do the same shit that the poor black people do in the lower classes, in the lower class neighborhoods. So that's where I know this is a serious problem. This is a serious problem. If you watch me, I don't even, I can see why people don't watch me, because basically I'm trying to kick your ass damn near every live stream to basically compete in business. If you come to my live stream, chances are you probably got pissed off because I kicked you up your ass to try to compete in business. So I don't know. Maybe this is, it's a good thing or, a bad thing. I don't know. But the thing is this. It's a problem because it's not about money. I'm telling you, upper class black people still have the same problem that lower class black people have. They don't even control their own neighborhood, or quote unquote neighborhood. Or they don't, it ain't like they go, well, when they go live around white people in the little nice suburban environments with the, like, little cul-de-sac communities and shit like that. Well, obviously they're not opening businesses in those neighborhoods with white folks, because they know, white people know, they're not dumb, they're not slow. They know white people are not going to support them in their business. So they don't open around their new community with no struggle that they just moved into, right? They're not going to open a business there. And they definitely not going back to the struggle to open up a business. So you can fucking forget that. So in a nutshell, you have basically, the result is no businesses, foreigners in your neighborhoods controlling the economic landscape, and you, by proxy of no choice in the matter, if you want a blunt, if you want some gas, you want some nachos, you go into these businesses. You stopping through, you already was getting some gas, so you're going to go get some chips and some pop in the inside, and then you walking back out and you getting your gas and you going about your way, because it's a convenient place and you needed these things anyway. They just so happen to have the business. Now, the problem is you're dealing with people, okay, that have these businesses. They don't have the problems of thinking that you have. Okay, they don't have the problem of understanding that they got to work together. The Indians work together, the Arabians work together, the Pakistani work together. They all work together. They know it's us against the world. Black people all over the fucking place. Bloods, Crips, Christians, Muslims, Hebrew Israelites, Jews, um, Buddhists, Hindus, all of these different religions, all of these different groups, and all of this shit. And it's just a clusterfuck of people that's all over the fucking place. And while people all over the place, again, Americans flying first class, business class to London, to Switzerland, all over Europe, doing business deals. Hong Kong, uh, Japan, Tokyo, doing business, conducting business. Well, on a high level, advanced level, where black people, rich or poor, can't even control their own community's economic landscape. Basically, having businesses in their community and supporting one another and having thriving um, economic prosperity from these businesses, right? And having the jobs created from those businesses. This is not nothing new. And I'm willing to kick in the throat anybody that says, "Oh, the silent generation threw us under the bus. The baby boomers threw us under the bus." I want to kick the neck in of anybody that says that, because basically the silent generation, because they kind of had to, because of Jim Crow and segregation, they had to support each other. They had no choice of buying the white man's ice because they couldn't go in the store. So they had to go in stores that were black owned, and it forced black people to basically, through segregation, to support each other. As soon as segregation was lifted, black people all over the fucking place, supporting this person, that person, and then they calling you, they calling you, whatever expletive in their native language, with you in their face, with you in their face or outside of your presence. Basically, they don't like your ass, and they don't even live near you. They don't even live near you. That's a sign right there. Soon, soon, man. I mean, like literally, as soon as the fucking store closes, it's not like they going like to, like my grandfather, when he lives, his house is like 3 miles away from his store. His store, is like 3 miles away. He lived in the neighborhood. He lived near where his store was. Man, these foreigners, as soon as they close up that shop, man, they going wherever, basically far away where white people live, basically. They don't live around your ass. They don't even like living. They really low key, they really don't even want to deal with you, but they kind of have to, because they gotta have some money. They gotta make money. And they need the, certain freedoms that you have when you do have a business. You can, do whatever you want. You could go wherever you want. You could practice your religion, you know, easily, compared to working for others or whatever, or being on a job, the job site or whatever. So yeah, it's like that. Like, these people don't even they don't even want to live around you. Like, it's some of the most fake and phony people that you ever meet, because if you really pull back the layers, all that, hey bro, all the shit they be saying when you come in their store, they don't believe the shit, because they don't, like, they might kick it with you, have fun, maybe takes, some of the chicks in the back of the store or whatever. But at the end of the day, they closing that shop and they going, living they going back to that white suburb, and they close, and they laying their ass down in that white suburb, away from your black ass. They make money off of your black ass, and then go to sleep in a white neighborhood away from your black ass, comfortably safe away from you. And it's like, yeah, I mean, um, it's not equitable, right? Because you couldn't even go, okay, you couldn't go in the Arabs where they live, Arabians, and open up a store and expect to be really supported there. You're not gonna open up no shop in their neighborhood and expect to be in business long enough to be able to make enough money to make a profit, to pay the rent, pay the utilities, pay for licenses and taxes and everything like that. Good luck, buddy, because there ain't no equity in that situation. Or it's, they basically gonna disrespect your business because they're not gonna support your black ass. The same thing if you do it any other non-black neighborhood. Good luck on trying to do it. Good luck on trying to open up that store and get some type of business. It's really, to be honest, it's why a lot of black people are depressed. they really because of how basically how black people are just in the brain, just their mentality is really like, to be honest, I mean, unless you have like a really kick ass business and you're really doing it properly and you're doing well and you figure out a way to do it, because you can't do it. Can't have a successful business in America being black, but getting support from your own people, black people, you really can't even bank on that, because black people don't even like other black people. It doesn't matter if you're African or from the Caribbean. You just being black is just enough for another black person to not like you or think some type of biased by you being black. It's that strong. The propaganda and the psyop is that strong that this is a factor. Now, that might be because of, obviously, your interactions and daily interactions with black people. I mean, to be honest, like, yeah, it's certain places you can't go because it's a bunch of poor black people that are violent and will do certain violent things because that's what they do. They will rob you, they will carjack you, this, that, and the third, because that's just what they do. You go, I've been around upper class black communities before. I mean, middle class black communities. They're not robbing you, or carjacking you, because basically they don't have to. Okay, their parents got a little money, enough money to pay the bills. They got something, or maybe they trying to figure themselves out, trying to go get a job, or they're working a job, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that might be a concern. I will admit, like, yeah, most likely if you got a gun, the gun is probably, if you do use it, it's most likely going to be on another black person, because that's where you live. And a lot of black people do have financial problems, and they take it out on others by committing crimes. That's typical behavior. I mean, not to say that they the only ones that do that. A lot of a lot of people do that. You know, that's just what people do that don't have any uh, fr- uh business franchisement. They're disenfranchised. They're gonna basically do pirate stuff to survive. Take from whatever they whoever they can take from. But yes, black people do have um a problem of dislike towards each other. He and it's tripped out. It's almost laughable, because even the FBAs don't support FBAs. I mean, according to your Tariq Nasheed, your leader, y'all can't even put two and two together and make and control your own economic landscape. You talking about delineating from Africans, but you can't delineate from the Arabs and the fucking Indians that control your fucking neighborhoods, the businesses in your neighborhoods. You don't Tariq don't never say no shit about them. I don't hear none of y'all talking about delineating from the Arab with the corner store and the gas station, because okay, you can't deal with that disrespect because you need to deal with them, right? Where else you gonna buy blunts and gas and you know cheeseburgers at 2 o'clock in the morning? So yeah, I mean, there's a huge problem, and the core of that problem is unequitable disrespect. And I just, I'm not gonna make this long. I just want you to just think about that. Think about how unequitable and disrespected you are being a black person in America, and the other people, how they feed into this. Other black people just as a whole doing individual things because they all over the fucking place. They all, in church and the masjid and the Israelite, corner or whatever the fuck, all over the fucking place. Can't come together to make a fucking corner store and a gas station. Can't rub two pennies together, okay, to make a nickel. And always gotta ask someone for a fucking job because obviously you and others don't form businesses to create jobs for your own people. And you just open the door for disrespect. It's like just what's behind door number one? What's behind door number two? Door number three? Disrespect. And it comes to a point where you got to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to say, how am I going to deal with this unequitable disrespect? Even individually, can I do something? What can I do to deal with this unequitable fucking day-to-day disrespect? And the answer is copy what the fucking, people that are fucking disrespecting you are fucking doing. Match, what do they say what did the women say on social media? I'm matching that energy. Match the fucking energy. In 10, 20 years, might have a totally different fucking neighborhood, totally different community, totally different mindset. If you just looked at that, you know, why am I fucking disrespected? What led me to this point where I just can't get no fucking respect? I can't get no loans. I can't get no favorable loans. I can't get a lot of shit I cannot get. And you just look, okay, what are black people doing? What are other people doing? Oh, that's the fucking problem. We're doing shit differently and we expect a similar outcome, and it doesn't fucking work that way. And I wish I could be on here, talk corporate to you and not cuss you know, and not sound quote unquote ignorant and shit like that. But I have to come across like this because it is what it is. I'm not coming from a situation of power. I'm not communicating at a source of I'm a white dude, he can do content all corporate because he's in a position of already, in a position of power where everything is pretty much in a driver's seat. I'm not in that position. And even if I was there individually, how does that fucking help me individually? Like, even a rich man, what do you got to do? The wealthy man. What? Okay, David Stewart or what? Robert Smith. He got to go live in a mansion around a bunch of white people, and then what? Get a white. He got a white girl, a white wife or whatever, a young white wife. He does a lot for his people though. Okay, because he's got a corporation and he hires a lot of people. And a lot of those people are black people. But at the end of the day, if he came around where black people live, he got to go to foreign owned businesses to, basically buy shit because his own people are not doing what he's doing individually. What he's doing, others are not. Okay, they're not doing anything nowhere near. Like it's almost like, I don't know. It's like it, I don't know, man. It's weird. It's just really weird. Like, I mean, I'm I'm glad that, I did grow up the way I grew up, and I grew up around, merchants. I came from a family of grandparents. My grandparents were merchants. Okay, so I don't think like the average black person in America. Thank God. I struck the lottery being born, in a family of merchants. Not to say not all of my family are merchants. Only my grandparents were they had a store, they had a series of stores and businesses, and they had commercial real estate. Everybody else pretty much just kind of doing their own thing. Might have a property that they rent out, for others or something like that. They're not necessarily merchants. I was a merchant. Basically I was the one that had a store and all of that. But I don't think that way. Opening up a business is not that difficult. It's like it's an advanced apartment. But people overcomplicate. And then definitely black people, because black people be thinking shit be difficult that don't be difficult. Like I be telling people IT is not that you don't have to be no fucking nerd to be in IT and all of this. That's what they think in their brain. They think because a lot of times when you come from hardship, you think everything is hard. We come from hardship situations. Your brain programs you to think everything's fucking hard. That's where imposter syndrome comes in, and um all of that type of stuff. So um I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, I've already given the solution. I mean, I'm trying to rewire your brain from my one of my three cell phones on a YouTube live stream to, just if you can, wake the fuck up and deal with the fucking disrespect.